Welcome to Name 3 Songs. I'm Sarah Fagan.
I'm Jenna Million, and this is a podcast where we discuss feminist issues in music and pop culture, all while empowering fangirls.
Because let's be honest, fangirls knew about that band way before you did. This week we're having a big discussion. Chaos. Chaos is the best way to put it, but very
intellectual chaos.
Intellectual chaos. We're having lots of light bulb moments during today's discussion. I think you guys are really gonna like this one because it feels very much like pop culture news. Mixed with our old Name 3 Songs deep dives. Yeah. And I love when this happens because it's really fun because we get to use like everything we've learned from our old insane homework oriented episodes with like our new less homework oriented episodes and just have like some deep chats with y'all about what the fuck is going on with our faves.
It is funny because it's like both of these things were like fangirl nonsense that got very serious, very intellectual, and very deep, and that's why we think you're gonna love it. So we are talking about Jung Kook's song 3D featuring Jack Harlow. We are talking about why some fans are really mad and calling this misogyny, and honestly we're looking like very deeply at like the moral code of BTS, the social contract between fans and artists, and what that looks like when suddenly your fave is collabing with somebody you don't know, and how that also is very reminiscent of somehow Taylor Swift and Matty Healy's relationship. It's, again, we're connecting some dots. There's some light bulbs going off.
And to follow that up, since Taylor Swift worms her way into every discussion lately, and lately I am apparently her number one supporter of everything she does. We're obviously continuing the conversation around Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce and like the world's interest in that relationship and why everybody's so obsessed with like PR relationships right now and trying to figure out if this relationship is real or not real and like how layered that is. But on top of that, it's like we're looking at the fact that people are assuming that Taylor is like reliving the 1989 into Reputation era of life, and that people are like, she's being so public, like she's just doing this to promote 1989 and then get back into like her rep era, which like why would you wish that upon her? Never. And so people are like complaining about how she's being overexposed and how like they don't really understand like her vibes right now, and it's like because we're seeing the real Taylor. So there's a lot to talk about today, and there's so many layers to it. Lots of misogyny, lots of objectification, lots of everything you can possibly imagine. All of our favorite Name 3 Songs buzzwords are going on this week.
True.
And I think you guys are just going to be really obsessed with this conversation.
It's wild. Talk about consensual objectification. You'll hear about it soon. We'll have timestamps on our story if you want to see them. But I guess before we do our intellectual fangirl nonsense, let's do our silly fangirl nonsense.
Okay, I have some personal silly fangirl nonsense before I get into fangirl nonsense that you guys are probably also going to relate to, is that one of my friends got personally sent a couple copies of Caroline Calloway's first book. For those of y'all, we don't have time to get into who Caroline Calloway is.
If you know, you know. If you don't, Google that shit.
A nutshell is that she was one of the first Instagram caption girlies. She turned Instagram into Tumblr, kind of. She like was an American who was a psycho about wanting to go to Cambridge. She literally was like at NYU. It was like, no, this is not good enough. I must go to Cambridge. She applied like 700 times. Turns out she lied on her transcript to get in. She got into like the worst college in Cambridge, which is like still really good, but it's like the one for like senior citizens, meaning if like you're over 20 and get into Cambridge, that's the college they send you to. So she was like big mad about the fact that she like wasn't living in a castle, and then like forced them to let her like faked a disability so she could live closer to campus in like one of the cool dorms. But like she got famous on the internet for writing these like very long Instagram captions about her life as an American going to Cambridge. And then like right before COVID, like autumn of 2019, she went viral for like doing this creativity workshop that kind of turned into a scam, kind of didn't. It was mostly just like she is a really bad planner. And then because she was internet famous, her like bestie from NYU, who is no longer her bestie, sold the meanest story ever to The Cut about Caroline, making Caroline come across as like the literal worst person in the world. And Caroline has been trying to redeem her reputation since then, while also leaning into the idea of being a scammer. Basically, she's been trying to one up this girl, Natalie, and that the Cut article for years. And she's like, I'm going to write a memoir. Oh, also the other thing was that she sold the rights to her life story. Like she sold her life story of the Instagram captions, so not the rights, but she pitched her Instagram captions as a book to a publishing company. She got an advance for like $600,000 and she squandered all of it on speed. So like Adderall. And then because she was like high all the time writing this book, she was like, actually, like this story is not the story I want to tell. So then she sold the manuscript on Etsy to her fans. It's like, so this is not the TLDR version. It's only 3 minutes in. This is the TLDR. There's like so much to her.
Keep going.
Yeah. So like then she like backed out of her book deal and then owed them a bunch of money. And so she had to pay them back. There was like this whole thing with like her New York City studio apartment and like her illegally subletting it and like not paying the rent and all of this nonsense. And so then she fucked off to Florida where her grandma lived. And she just like kept trying to be like, I need to redeem myself from the story that Natalie sold to the Cut. And so then she's like, I'm going to make a memoir. And so she originally sold this like new memoir, like right after Natalie's The Cut article came out. And then she fucking disappeared off the internet. And everyone was like, scammer 2.0. Like she took all of our money that we pre-ordered for this book. And like, we're never going to see the book. And then Natalie got a book deal for a book of personal essays, including the Caroline Calloway one. And like another one that was also about Caroline. And that's honestly the only reason anybody had any interest in this Natalie book. And so once the book was coming out, Caroline's like, fuck, I need to release my book. And so she did. And so Caroline was like, not only am I going to put my book out, I'm going to put it out like the weekend after Natalie's book comes out. So that way people are going to like Natalie's book's going to be ignored because my book came out, which honestly, I'm impressed. She took notes from Taylor Swift's Girl Boss book and ran with it.
Wait, so which book did you get?
I got the book that she released in response to
the Etsy book?
Natalie's book.
Oh, no.
No, not the Etsy book. I've read that on Reddit.
Okay.
So this is like a new one, but basically I wanted the book really badly, but because Caroline's super extra, she's like, oh, I bought like this fancy this book is not that fancy. I got this. I was disappointed because she was like, oh, like I got fancy Italian paper and like all this crazy stuff that she was talking about that she did to make this book like the prettiest, most incredible book you're ever going to see in your life. And it's just a book. It's literally just a book. But it cost $65.
Oh my God.
Like, I'm not spending $65 on it. So
how many
like
pages is it?
The book goes to 158 pages.
Why
158 pages because she's Caroline Calloway. But I was like, I'm not gonna spend $65 on this book. It's not happening. And then Celebrity Memoir Book Club did a really in-depth episode about it, and then they interviewed her. So I was like, oh, I don't need to read it. And then my friend posted on his Instagram stories like he read it, and I messaged him and I was like, did you get this because you're a TikTok star, or did you buy this? Like, what's going on? And he was just like, I have connections, but I have 5 copies. Would you like one?
5?
I was like, please don't tell me you spent $65 on all of them. He was like, no, I did not. Of course not. And I was like, okay, yes, please. So he mailed me one.
Wow.
And I was like, you are a prince. I will kiss you on the forehead next time I see you.
That's amazing.
So now I get to read it, and I'm so excited because this is my Joker.
That is amazing. That's truly amazing.
I'm so excited.
I'm excited for you. I love this. I love the story. You know, I thought we were just going on a chaotic like tangent, and I was just gonna be like, okay, no, that was great. Thank you.
Like, this girl is crazy. Like, it's so funny because people joke that she's like the internet Anna Delvey, but like she's not like this. The idea of her being a scam artist is like not really that deep. Like, she really isn't. Almost everything that she's been referred to as a scam, she's either proved wasn't or like repaid to some extent. So I'm just like, no, she's just been a bit high and a bit mentally unwell. But yeah, so now I have the book, and next time I'll report on it because I'm gonna read it in like 48 hours probably.
Okay, great. Love it. Tune in next week for the follow-up.
Yeah, but in more widely understandable Fangirl Nonsense. We have like the hardest of hard launches of Bad Bunny and Kendall Jenner, even though like obviously they've been launched for quite some time. But they literally did a Gucci ad together, which feels very official.
Okay, but also the Gucci ad was boring.
It was so boring. But Kendall is boring.
Wait, wait, hold on. It's like the photos that are just in this People article. There's no other ones. There's like literally 3 photos. Is that it? What the fuck? This was what? Okay, first of all, 2 of them literally look like paparazzi shots. The third one there is like cuter. She's like sitting on top of some luggage, and they're like, he's like, I don't even know.
There's like a video. The whole point of it is that it's like the theme is like airport pap shot.
Okay, the video ad is 12 seconds long, and it is more interesting than the photos, which are very boring, but it's still giving nothing. Also, I love that this People article is titled, Kendall Jenner and Bad Bunny share some PDA in Gucci's new campaign. There is literally no PDA involved here. There's absolutely none. They like...
It depends how PDA averse you are.
I'm like, they literally... Bad Bunny... body language leaning into Kendall Jenner, laughing hysterically while she sits there blankly staring at a basketball court. That was more PDA than this ad.
It's just like, it's so funny. It's also just funny because like for years, and this has nothing to do with Bad Bunny, but for years I was like, Kendall Jenner is so pretty, she's had no work done. But it's just because she's had like Emily Ratajkowski face work done, whereas like the rest of them have had like Instagram face work done. So like I didn't realize. I feel like as time has progressed, obviously they all keep getting more and more work done. So it's just funny looking at this Gucci ad and her face just looks like, I saw a TikTok about this the other day about like when normal hot people are next to like plastic surgery hot people.
Right.
And therefore the person who's normal hot looks so normal. And so I think it was just really jarring for me seeing these ads, because Bad Bunny to me is like so hot, and then like next to her in like a Gucci ad, he just looks so normal and she looks so plastic. And I'm like, what is happening here? It's kind of like Uncanny Valley, where you're like, this is a human, but like why do I feel uncomfortable? And it's like, because it's not really a human. Her face kind of looks AI.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. Yeah, your like brain is glitching. You're like, wait, human, not human. Wait, human, robot. Wait. No, I totally get that. That's really funny.
Yeah, it's really weird, but I just think it's hilarious because, again, I very much understand that Bad Bunny can speak English, but he like very much in public is like, I'm not going to because you guys are colonizers. And so it's just the fact that like he's willing to speak English to Kendall Jenner, like it upsets me deeply.
Oh my God. Yeah. No, that's pretty funny. I just wish this Gucci campaign was better. I simply just wish it was better.
I know, because I'm like, I just think back to like when Harry was doing the Gucci ads, and like they were so interesting and creative, and this is just like not.
I'm like, Bad Bunny deserves more.
He does. I feel like he's so creative, and this just feels...
We need like a full spread, not like not an Instagram ad.
And I just feel like if they wanted to do like paparazzi in an airport, they could have made it a little bit more interesting, had a more oomph.
Yeah, I agree. It could have been a little less on the nose. And it could have been a little bit more upscale. Could have been a little less like they just wore Gucci to the airport.
Exactly. So that was the silly, goofy fangirl nonsense. Jenna's fangirl nonsense for the week is actually one of the 2 big topics that we're talking about today. So Jenna, would you like to give everybody some info about this new Jung Kook featuring Jack Harlow song that came out and why the internet's ablaze?
Yeah, so Jung Kook in his sexy era.
He's doing his
Jung Kook is very
syndrome.
much doing Justified. Obviously, we knew that from the first single, 7, which was loving you 7 days a week in my book.
Jenna.
But maybe a little bit more explicit for others. So yeah, that was the first single. It's been a few months. Came back with 3D featuring Jack Harlow. The preview was very much giving in sync, like very enticing, but also the lyrics were like, I want to see it in motion in 3D. And we're like, all right, like clearly this is also a song about fucking. Music video is great. We love the music video. Very Y2K. They're dancing in the street. There's rain. Like, it's great.
I love a softcore porn rain moment in a music video.
However, Jack Harlow's verse has stirred up a lot of controversy among ARMY and on the internet. And so I like listened to this song when it came out at like midnight or whatever. And I was like, oh, That's great. I'm going to bed. I wake up to Army is ablaze, like in all aspects, on Twitter, on Instagram, like everywhere. Army's mad. And then I was like listened to the song again, was reading what people were saying. I was like, okay, people are like really mad about Jack Harlow's verse. They're calling it misogyny. Like people are like big angry. So I was kind of like trying to collect my thoughts and like figure out, like just read and see what people are saying. And I feel like we've thought about this enough. And honestly, it wasn't until Sara and I were kind of talking about it today that we kind of came to some realizations among this, because we're going to break down the lyrics like in a minute and talk specifically like what people are mad about, because the song itself, like the chorus is very like, if you're ready and you'll let me, I want to see it in motion in 3D. So people are saying like Jung Kook's very like being sexy but consensual, which is kind of hilarious. But I want to preface this conversation with BTS and what BTS stands for and what people, when they buy into BTS, what they're buying into. And that is very much BTS does no wrong. BTS like the moral standards everyone should have. BTS very much does no wrong for many people. And the reason that this is significant is because back in 2015 or 2016 era, when BTS were kind of starting to pop off, they got called out by fans for having misogyny in their lyrics. And specifically, there was a song, War of Hormone. So fans were mad about the lyrics in the song. It was a little bit objectifying. It was a little bit misogynistic. RM, who's the leader of BTS, Namjoon, RM, listened to these criticisms. And what did he do? He went and talked to a women's study professor and he learned. He literally went and had conversations with like other women, other female songwriters, and like women's studies professors. This is well documented. BTS has spoke about it multiple times throughout their career back then, as well as very recently, especially because BTS has been like ambassadors to the UN. Like I think in 2021, 2022, and maybe the previous year in 2020 or something. But they did an interview with ABC News in September 2021, very specifically where they were asked about, society in Korea is very like male dominated. However, like the UN stands for like equality for all. Like where does this come in like with you with like equality for all, equality for women, whatever. That was kind of the question. And they went and like brought up this point about, we got criticized for having misogynistic lyrics. We went back, we learned from that. And so we chose not to write about that in the future. So this is like very, very, very much. And then also when BTS put out their book, like this year, I think, again, they talked about this. It's like a core pillar thing, even to the point where HYBE has a gender sensitivity training that all trainees, all HYBE artists go through. And so there was like a little write-up kind of like about the book, about the situation in Koreaboo of July of this year. It says that RM acknowledges that the members initially perceived these misogynistic elements as genre characteristics of hip-hop, only to learn about the concept of misogyny and its implications later on. They go on to write, recognizing the importance and understanding societal prejudice and avoiding defining women's value from a male perspective, BTS and their label Big Hit Entertainment publicly addressed the controversy in July 2016. They declared that they had understood that, quote, music creation is not free from social prejudice and fallacies. And so it's like the entire platform of BTS is essentially, of course, not entirely social justice because they're limited in like the degree in which they can speak out. But for the most part, it's equality. Like for the most part, their platform is equality. And if you buy into BTS, that's what you're buying into, this moral code. So that's why when we have this 3D song, it feels like Jack Harlow's verse is challenging the moral code. And this is why in my opinion, this is why a lot of ARMY are mad, is because this song does not align with the moral code that they bought into when they bought into BTS.
So I have a couple questions because I find this really interesting. And I think what BTS has done in being like, we learned about something that is not a main focus in Korean culture, but is clearly a focus in like more Western cultures about like misogyny. Because, sorry, I just thought it was funny that they were like, we didn't know this was a thing. Like, RM like was saying how like, oh, like we learned about the concept of misogyny and like its implications later. And I'm like, oh, right, because misogyny only exists in the Western world. I forgot. Sorry. It's so funny. But I mean, it's funny because it's like it's really fucked up. Like, that's why it's funny. It's funny in like not like a haha kind of way, but like you can't help but laugh. Anyway, sorry. Tangent. But so it made me have a couple of thoughts in regards to this, because we talked about this before and we did like a replay of our Justified Syndrome episode in talking about Jungkook's first single, 7, because we were like, this is really relevant because it's really interesting that he's the one to do this. I think based off of like, again, I'm the outsider here. Jenna has taught me everything I know about BTS, and like whatever has stuck in my brain has stuck there. I think if I was going to pick any member of BTS to do Justified Syndrome, it would have been Jungkook. So I think it's funny that he did it.
Yeah.
Well, because like you said, he was like the youngest, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And then like it was kind of like, ooh, now he's sexy, and he's like,
Right.
yeah, I am.
Right. Exactly.
and so like it made a lot of sense to me. In understanding more of like the fact that they got called out for misogyny in their lyrics in the past, that now ARMY is kind of like eagle-eyed on the lookout for any semblance of this in their solo music, because it's like, just because you're a solo artist, I'm still going to be holding you to the standards of BTS because you're still a member of BTS, because BTS is not like, they're on like ARMY sanctioned hiatus. Like this isn't like a One Direction hiatus, you know, like it's a very different situation. Like this is kind of like a government forced hiatus kind of. So it's like them viewing Jungkook as still a member of BTS is like 100% more valid than like somebody viewing Harry Styles as still a member of One Direction and like holding him to like whatever standards One Direction had, which were none. But like if they did, you know, like, it would be the same thing. I'm trying to like, you know, make everybody be on the same playing field here. But so it makes a lot of sense to me, like why they would still be like, you need to have these same standards. You need to view things the same way as you would as if you were making music for BTS. I understand it. But where I guess my question comes into play here is like, Jungkook's whole thing seems to be like, yeah, I'm sexy, even outside of his music, because he's posting these like fucking unhinged like it's not Instagram lives, is it? It's like on some other app, right?
We Live.
Yeah, so he's going live. He's going live for his fans,
working out on camera.
Yeah, like
naked in bed on camera.
Okay, but like working out shirtless, doing essentially the TikTok whimper challenge. Like this man, like this man knows what he's doing. He's like doing push-ups until he starts making sex noises. He's like video chatting you from bed, basically. Like he's doing all of these things that are so sexually provocative. And so it's like, we're fans not expecting his music to be just as horny as he clearly is.
Oh my God. So this is what's complicated, is like ARMY is such a huge, massive fandom that of course there's like different groups. Of course. But I feel like on apps like Twitter and TikTok, like you kind of see what the hive mind is thinking. And I just think historically Jungkook has been babied, like by the members, by fans. And I think this is why he's leaned so hard into sexy, because even he was literally just doing it was like a station head, whatever, which it's a live, but it's like radio thing where he like plays his songs and then he can like interject and like comment things. People in the comments were like, you're so cute. He was like, why are you calling me cute? And he like gets mad because it's like him. And I like sent Sarah some tweets, like we'll put this on Instagram, but it's like, Jungkook is very like, everyone says he has like boba ball eyes, like he's very cutie, like baby face still, even though he's like 26. And then he's like so shy on camera, and he's kind of like that silly little boy that like is a member of BTS on camera. And I think like just his persona and how he is and how he's come to interact with like the camera and like when he's doing interviews or when he's like being in the hot seat, I think he kind of reverts into this Jungkook I'm a kid mode. And people just baby him. People baby him. They're like, oh my God, he's so cute. He's so cute. He's so cute. And then he goes and he's like, no, I'm a man. It's literally Justified Syndrome, but he's like 26. And I think also like, if we're going to talk about all this, I feel like the whole like no dating, no girlfriends thing plays into it, like plays a role in all of that. Of like any other boy band member who's done this has been like 22, 21, 23. When they've been doing the Justified thing, they've been younger. And he's like 26. And literally also on the live stream, he was like, you guys, I'm not innocent. Like I'm 26-year-old. Like I know what's going on. He was like, that would be strange if I was that innocent at this age. And so I think there's a section of the fandom that's still very much like projecting that onto him. And then I think there's others who are like, oh, he's so cute, but also he's sexy, and like are accepting it more. And then there's like a third faction that's like, you're not allowed to be sexy. Like, what are you doing? And then it's like, that's against the moral code. So it's like very layered and very complicated.
Everything you're saying, I think, makes a lot of sense as to why fans are going to be like dissecting lyrics and trying to make sure that he is sticking to this moral code and all of that stuff. I wonder personally, like, I wonder if like they're being more judgmental of him, or not even judgmental, but more like they're being more critical of him because they view him as like a youth, a baby, like, oh, he's not supposed to know what sex is, tee, when like clearly this man knows what sex is. And so I wonder if there is that. And I mean, I think also, even just based off of the backlash that I've seen in regards to like him working with Scooter Braun and like all of this stuff, and like it feels like there is also kind of maybe the fear of losing him to the Western audience and him getting too big, where like then when BTS is planning to come back together in 2025, for him to be like, I'm so famous in America, why would I come back? I think that there's fear. Well, no, I'm just saying, like, I don't think that would happen, but I think that there probably is an understandable fear there, especially from Western fans, from seeing like Justin leaving NSYNC, Zayn leaving One Direction, like Harry and Niall's success post One Direction, and the whole thing of like everybody's constantly like being like, oh, this is the year they're gonna announce that they're gonna do a reunion in regards to One Direction, and then other fans being like, why would they, when Harry and Niall are so successful? They don't need to do that. So I can understand why there might be the fear there, even if like that would probably just never happen.
Like from Western audiences, there's a trauma. Yes. There's a trauma.
Yeah, there's trauma there. Yeah.
If you've been a fan of those Western boy bands, I should say.
Yeah.
I definitely don't think that would ever happen in the BTS.
No,
scenario,
I don't think it would happen, but it's just like PTSD.
Yeah, no. I can definitely see that. But I think also it's the losing him to the general public. Of like people seeing this image of him and not knowing him for who he really is, and then him suddenly becoming a mainstream thing where like the parasocial relationship, like he's not just yours anymore. Although I will say, man literally deleted his Instagram account and only goes live on like Weverse, so he's very not accessible by the general public, which is like literally hilarious. But I do think there maybe is that fear, like maybe the fear of like you're losing something that like you thought you knew, you thought you had. And I think in the connection of like Jungkook to BTS, like I think they're very much intertwined, but they're still letting the members do what they want to do for their solo projects. Like each of them have had very distinct sounds and like
they're
stories
fans
that
of
they're
different
telling.
Music. Right? Yeah.
But the company's letting them do that. Like, would BTS as a collective ever sing this song? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Can Jungkook? They're letting him. We haven't seen this before, right? We haven't seen Justified where there was a moral code that he came from. And I think to a certain degree, that moral code still applies to him because he grew up with it. Like, he personally grew up with it. Like, BTS as people, like, I think that we've seen enough of them that like they are very much like the people and the morals that they say that they are. I personally like truly deeply believe that. And so I think there can be both. Like I think he can do sexy things and still be a good person. Like I don't think it's one or the other.
Yeah, 100%. And I think also it's like because fans are used to a certain level of respect, I guess, in songs, anything that feels objectifying, they might automatically view objectification and misogyny as the same word when they're not the same word and not the same thing, not the same feeling, etc. Which like, but coming from BTS where like none of that exists, I can see why automatically it would feel hostile. Like I can get that. But like, while I think that we'll get into Jack Harlow's verses in a second here, but like, again, outsider perspective here. If you listen to 7, the explicit version, which is like the version that we all heard first, and then you listen to 3D with Jack Harlow on it, which is the version that's going to be played on the radio and most people are going to hear. It's like neither of these songs is worse than the other. Again, from my outside perspective, and we're going to get into the lyrics because the first listen that I listened to, I was like, what the fuck is this? Yeah. Because you're listening to it and you're just listening to it. You're not dissecting lyrics because most people don't. But if you go and like read the lyrics, you're kind of like, oh, I maybe overreacted because I did. I was like, what? I was like, what is Jack Harlow doing here? Like, why is he doing this? But also, again, like from my perspective, like him coming out the gate with seven, which is like literally, I'm gonna fuck you 7 days a week. And like what Jenna has taught me about K-pop is that like you have to use the visuals along with the audio to inform the song. Yeah. And so in watching that video and listening to that song, I was like, this is about like a toxic relationship that has ended, and he's trying to like convince this girl to come back to him because he's like, I'll fuck you right 7 days a week. Like, why would you not want to be with me? Like, come back, baby. Which like I was like, this is aggressive, but also at least like he's trying to make her finish. Like, I don't know. Like I love it, like because there's nothing inherently like bad about the lyrics, but they are very sexual, and while they are consensual, it is objectify-y. Like, you can't escape that. And it's the same thing I think with this song, where especially his verses are very much like consent is important. Like you get that message straight away, but you also get the message of, but I want to fuck you. Yes. And like,
yes.
And it's a really funny thing of like the idea of objectification sounds and feels bad, but when you're objectified by the correct person, it doesn't feel bad. And so it's like, it's one of those things where like the grand idea of objectifying a person feels gross, but like we all summer were objectifying Harry Styles every fucking week in our Fangirl Nonsense because he just had his tits out all the time and was like pouring water on himself in slow motion somehow. Like, yeah. I don't know how he's doing it, but he was. But it's like he was like literally inviting us to objectify him. Yeah. And like, again, it's like in some situations, it's like, okay, do I want to look cute and be objectified? Fine. Yes, I'm aware. Like me going out with like my tits out is like me going out and agreeing to be objectified for a little bit, just to like maybe get a free drink on a night out. Like, who doesn't do that? Like, you can use objectification to your benefit, basically. Like, it's because it's bad, but it's not. Like, it's a very double-edged sword of a situation. And so that's what I'm saying is like with Jungkook's music, he is being like a very loving lover, very passionate about like both parties wanting to be there, but he's also like, but I want to fuck you so bad. It's just like, it's so funny to me as somebody who knows nothing really. Just like the things that Jenna tells me and they stick in my brain. And I'm like, he's just like so horny.
Oh my God.
In like such a polite way. Whew. And so it's funny.
I did see a tweet that was like, I love Jungkook's personal brand of polite horny.
It's literally what it is. It's so funny. But like the thing that's funnier here is like with Seven, it's just Jungkook singing this. So it's like the listeners of Jungkook already have a relationship with him. They already have an idea of who he is. And therefore, like the consensual objectification is accepted because they understand that he is essentially a feminist. Like that he understands consent, that he understands feminism, that he understands all these things. And therefore, the song feels less objectify-y to pre-existing Jungkook fans and like also people who like don't pick apart lyrics and like think about everything from a feminist viewpoint. You know, they're just like, oh, it's a good pop song, you know? Yeah. But then with Jungkook featuring Jack Harlow, which is clearly a push into like the Western audience because they're featuring like a very buzzy white rapper. So very like accessible to even the most racist of Americans. Like, I'm just being real here, guys. Like, everything about this is very much packaged for general public consumption because of like who the feature is. Like, it feels more accessible to the people of America or like other Western countries. Yeah. But because Army doesn't know Jack Harlow and doesn't know his background, Jack Harlow coming on the song, because he's a writer on the song, like he's credited as a writer on the song, like Jack Harlow coming into this with his very specific writing style, his very specific rap style, his very specific like
personal brand of objectification.
Yeah, yes, exactly. His very specific brand of objectification and his understanding with his fans about how he consensually objectifies his love interest in his songs. But these are two completely different, like very different people coming in to listen to these songs.
Demographics,
and and so it's like, I can understand why Jungkook and BTS fans coming into this who have no parasocial agreement with Jack Harlow are going to assume the absolute worst.
You sound so smart right now. This is wild.
Thank you so much.
No, this is literally wild. This is true. Like, this is all true.
Thank you.
I'm trying to think if we've talked about this in relationship to something else before, and I feel like we haven't. I'm not.
I feel like we have.
landing
I don't
on it.
remember what though.
Yeah.
Oh, we did. Oh, it's like the fake contract that artists have with fans. I can't remember who we were talking about this.
Yeah.
But it's like fans go into relationships with artists and it was Taylor Swift where they signed like a contract with the artist expecting something from them.
But like not with Maddie Healy.
But yeah,
was
and
that
so
it?
like and so Taylor fans had like assigned like a fan artist
and they
contract
don't know who
with her
Maddie
expecting
is.
something.
Yeah.
They don't know who Maddie is. Maddie comes
they
in
have
and
no
then like
context. Yeah.
Shit hits the fan. And so it's the same thing where Jack Harlow comes in. He has a social contract with his fans of like what they can expect, like his version of consensual objectification, et cetera, because he does the same thing where he is very horny in his music, but his fans are like, but he's like really respectful of us. And like he is a huge following of Black women listeners. And they're very vocal about the way that they like how he raps about them and raps about women. But we can't expect BTS and Jungkook fans to like have that same understanding of that social contract that Jack has and has had with his fans for years. And so BTS fans are coming into this, like ARMY's coming into this being like, we have a years-long social contract with the members of BTS and what we expect from them. And they have been so vocal about that contract. And therefore, that should be a contract that anybody who works with them also has to take part in. And I can understand them assuming the worst when it comes to these Jack Harlow verses.
Yeah. No, that completely makes sense. This is so fascinating because it's beyond like this is so true. Like there's social contracts and implications in this song beyond just his verse. So it's like really like this is really blowing my mind right now, you guys. Pulled an article that like what is Jack Harlow about in Harper's Bazaar by Bianca Bentecourt in April 2022, and she was talking about this, about how this phenomenon of like Black women love him, but they break down like how he's been so respectful to them, how he's always appreciative, how he gives back to the community, how he always puts the spotlight on people, how he spots like other like female rising rappers. And they have a quote from entertainment writer Donna Rowland who says, "When I listen to Jack Harlow, I don't feel degraded. That is one thing I appreciate. He's just being him. Real recognizes real. We know that he actually respects Black women, and that gets you far too. He might even be more respectful of us than some of the Black rappers, honestly." So we'll have this linked if you guys want to like read more about it. But I do think it's very interesting because I was like, is Jack Harlow always like this, or is he just like this in this song? Because again, like I don't have a social contract with Jack Harlow. Like I don't really know much about him. I just know him when he appears on red carpets and he like is very charming and like kind of nerdy. I don't know anything beyond that. So it's like, to me also, I'm like, is he coming off unhinged in this verse, or is this how he is? But I think like now that we've like thought about this a lot more, it starts to make a lot more sense. These are some of the lyrics that I saw people being mad about on Twitter. So I kind of want to like look at them a little bit closer. First off, he starts with like, "I'm on my Jungkook, take a chick off one look," which like is funny because he's just like, damn, Jungkook could really pull someone with one look. But then he goes to say, "When I see that body, you would think it was a dead body." And when I first heard this line, I thought he was talking about he did the deed and he left a woman in a state. And then he says, "The way I told my boys, come look." I thought we were literally talking about like femicide here. Like I was like, what the fuck is going on? And then Sarah and I talked about this.
So Jenna, like in our notes for this episode, like there are a bunch of lyrics that Jenna like highlighted and like left notes for. And so when I initially, like I said, like my first listen of the song, hearing Jack Harlow's verses, I was like, this feels a little over the top for a Jungkook song. But I was like, again, it was like midnight. I was like, I'm not going to think too deeply about this. I'll think about it later. But so Jenna highlighted this lyric and I was like, she thinks this is really bad. Yeah. And then when we got on to like talk about the episode, I was like, no, read it in the sense of like, if you saw a dead body, you would be like, everybody come, like I think she's not breathing. Like we need to figure out what's going on. Like, come look, I don't know if she's alive. Like the panic. So I was like, think of it in that mindset. And then think like you and your boys are at the club and you see the girl with like a hourglass figure, the hottest girl you've ever seen in your life. And so you are dancing past her. You like rush to the bar where your boys are at and you're like, guys, come look at this chick. She's so fucking hot. Like he was basically like, I was so excited by this girl's body. Yeah. Like her tits and ass were on fire. I had to come get my boys as if I think that someone's dead in the alley and we need to check for a pulse.
Yeah. That lyric, very alarming, very alarming. Dead body, very alarming.
Because it
I
could
think
be,
maybe
like, if you listen to it once,
shouldn't have
it's
just
like it feels so bad.
yeah.
And like, but like when you read it, I'm like, this is actually kind of fucking clever, but like in the most fucked up way.
Oh, yeah. So it is not about what I thought it was about. It's not about that. So it is definitely not as bad as we originally thought it was. It is, however, objectification. Again,
Yes.
it could be read in like what your social contract is with this person who is objectifying you. That depends.
If a guy I was into thought I was that hot, I feel like I'd be into it.
He goes on to say, all my ABGs get cute for me, which ABGs is either Asian baby girl or Asian baby gangster, but it's like basically like girls who like would run around with gangs in Asia and be like the bad girl type of like super hot but like tattoos and all that stuff. So there's like a lot of implications there, which like this just to me felt very like fetishization. So I'm like, ugh, not my favorite from him. Then he says, I had 1 girl, too boring, 2 girls, that was cool for me, 3 girls, damn, dude's horny, 4 girls, okay, now you whorin. Which also like, now you whorin sounds like Niall Horan, but that's he could have made a rhyme there, that's another thing. This also, like, I think was something people were really mad about because they were like, it's objectifying in a sense of women are just there for your consumption and to move on from.
Yeah.
Which like I totally get and completely see this side of. And also, we are in a culture of sleeping around. So
yeah,
this is the thing is like, I feel like there's lots of like implications around this, around men always sleep with more people. Like they're allowed to have a high body count, but like women aren't. So like there's a lot of like implications within this type of language.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think also it's like, it feels like he's making fun of himself for his roster getting larger. But again, it's like also, like we keep saying, it's like most of the people who are listening to this don't understand Jack Harlow's style of rapping. They don't know his style of being horny. Like they don't get it in regards to his lyricism. And that's fine. And it's fine to be upset about it. But I think objectification and misogyny are 2 very different things. And misogyny is very aggressive and dangerous, whereas objectification can make you not feel good if you're being objectified by somebody you don't want to be objectified by. But like I said, if you're being objectified by someone you do want to be objectified by, it's just flirting.
I would also like to interject here that Bad Bunny's one of his most popular songs, Titi Me Pregunta, is literally about his aunt asking him if he has a girlfriend. He's like, yeah, I have lots of girlfriends and they're all my VIPs.
I love that.
Like we said, different brands of horny, different brands of objectification. And then the final line here, which people weren't mad about this, I just think it's really kind of cringe the way he wrote it, which I think encapsulate more so the vibe he was going for, even though it maybe didn't come off that way, is that he said, I'll fly you from Korea to Kentucky and you ain't got to guarantee me nothing. I just want to see if I get lucky. I just want to meet you in the physical and see if you would touch me. Like, this goes back, this is tying back into the consent of it all. I'm like, this line is so cringe. If somebody said that to me, I'd be like, gross. Like, never say that out loud. But like, I think this is like what the intent was, and the first impression of the rest of the lyrics don't feel that same intent.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think again, it's like he's very much doing Jack Harlow music when like this isn't a Jack Harlow song. And so it's like doing this kind of nerdy, like, I just want to see you in real life and see if I can get it. See if like the chemistry we have, I'm assuming on the internet, since the song is like in 3D. So like, it's like, oh, I want to see if this like internet chemistry we have would like translate. Like, I'm not expecting anything. Like, you can come here, you're safe, you're cool. But like, I would really like to see if we would fuck. Like, the bar is so in hell. But I just, so I just think like this is a really interesting case study in regards to like the fan artist social contract, like expectations of artists when it comes to their music. Like, there's a lot to unpack here and a lot to go off of. And I just think it's really interesting because clearly like this isn't just a one I fuck song situation. This is a whole I fuck album that's going to be coming. Yeah. So I think that there's going to be a lot more discourse around this I do think it's
also, I mean, 2 things to bring up that are interesting. A lot of people are definitely like villainizing Jack Harlow for this.
Yeah.
But also I've seen people villainizing Scooter Braun. Isn't
Oh my
that great?
God.
The man who will never disappear. Because they're basically blaming Scooter Braun for this. They're like, Scooter Braun is corrupting Jungkook is what the narrative is. We have no receipts.
I'm sorry, guys.
But this goes back to the babying him.
Yes. But
Jungkook
like,
is an adult who can make adult decisions.
if Jungkook was an American artist, we would have a sex tape already.
Yeah.
Like we would. Like,
We'd
he
not be
put
having
it
the
out
same
himself.
conversation.
Because
We'd
he
not be
would
having the
be
same
like,
conversation.
no, we would never have the same conversation. But I'm just saying, like, well, no, we would, because he would be the youngest member of a boy band who people are babying and people are acting like this. And so if they continue to do that, I feel like if he was a Western artist, we would have had a quote unquote leaked sex tape by now to prove his point.
Yeah, no, but this is what I'm saying. It's a different conversation, is because he is not a Western artist.
Yeah,
he's a
not,
K-pop
so it's
artist.
not gonna happen. Yeah.
And there's an entire, like, beyond just like not being Western, there's an entire implication of being a K-pop artist, which is that you are an ideal boyfriend. You don't have a girlfriend. Like, it is a scandal if you're spotted with somebody. And I think also, I feel like there's a certain like babyfication of people projecting onto Korean idols that they don't understand the same reality that we do in the English speaking world.
Yeah, which is not borderline xenophobia. So
yeah, which is definitely
a whole
problematic.
other conversation.
Yeah, which is definitely problematic. But I think that it's like the whole like, does he know what sex is? Like,
of course
again,
he fucking does.
He's a 26-year-old
Have you seen him?
man. Have you seen what he does on live?
Have you seen
his live stream is the
lip
closest
ring.
thing we'll
He's a
ever
lip
get to like a
ring.
leaked sex tape, right?
A lip ring equals slut.
Yes, yeah. So I just think there's multiple layers of babyfication of Jungkook. I think also, like, yes, being the youngest of the group is one thing in America, but I also think being the youngest of the group in Korea is also a different thing, because their like age, the way their like hierarchy is just the whole structure is so hierarchical of like literally they have terminology for calling someone who's older than them. And like they always, and there's like respectful like honorifics, like depending on your ages. And so like within that frame, there's also like a different level of babying that I think we're not used to the same degree in Western culture, in like American culture. I'm just going to say that because it's like, this is what I grew up in, American culture. So yeah, I think it would be a different conversation, even if he was the youngest member of a 7-piece boy band that came from America.
Yeah. Wow. There's a lot to think about. And we still have so much to talk about.
The whole point of this was that Scooter Braun, people are trying to blame Scooter Braun when it's like he's an adult man who can make adult decisions. So I do think this is a very interesting case study, and I will close my case at that.
I do have one last point too, though, is that from what you've told me about how BTS like brought so much success to Big Hit.
Yeah.
Like, it sounds very much like the label gives them a lot of leeway and control over their projects.
Yeah.
So while I'm sure like Scooter Braun is being like, hey, you should feature a Western artist to help you get Western success, like, I think that he's coming, like, I'm sure he's coming to the table, or like his people, whatever, are coming to the table with like ways to succeed in America and Western markets. But I'm sure also Jungkook is like, I want to be as sexy as I possibly can.
Yeah.
And they're like, whatever you want, good sir. But yeah, we could talk about this for hours because I find this so interesting. But excitingly, we have a whole other conversation to have today. And this conversation is making my brain explode around Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, because it's really interesting. So obviously this is becoming a bigger thing. Literally yesterday, this past Sunday, Taylor Swift went to the Chiefs-Jets football game in New Jersey. She went with Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds, Anthony from Queer Eye, Hugh Jackman was there, Sophie Turner was there, like, also obviously Travis Kelce's mom, again, Jake from State Farm was there.
Yes,
not
that
with
was
Taylor
fucking
Swift,
hilarious.
but with Donna Kelce, which I love. Yeah, so Taylor was there with like her New York-based posse, all people that she's been seen with throughout the years.
Wasn't Sabrina Carpenter there also?
Oh yeah, Sabrina Carpenter was also there. But Blake Lively is like a known close personal friend of hers. Like, fans multiple times will base whether or not Taylor Swift is serious about a man or serious about a breakup based off of who Ryan Reynolds is following or unfollowing on Instagram because of how close of friends she and Blake Lively are.
Oh my god.
And so it's been like
Can you imagine been like the gossip that Ryan Reynolds hears?
I know. Ryan Reynolds knows so much gossip. But so it's been a really interesting week in regards to pop culture around their relationship, because obviously like this is a big news cycle situation, but Travis Kelce is being very tight-lipped because he understands that that's what Taylor wants. And Travis Kelce is historically known for just talking because he has like a podcast and like
he's a man.
He's a man. But as a football player, like they're interviewed all of the time, like constantly having to talk about things. And so I think he's doing a really good job, like not really talking about it now that the public is aware. But it's been really interesting, like watching like kind of the publications scramble to write articles about this when we're not really gaining any new information other than seeing photographs of people coming into and out of places, as well as fans' reactions to this and everybody asking, is this a PR relationship? Is this real? Whatever. And so it's really interesting seeing like these factions of the internet. And we've talked about this before about how like a lot of PR girlies on TikTok are trying to do similar stuff to what we're doing in just like educating the masses about what PR is and how PR works and how it works hand in hand with celebrity. But not all of the PR girlies who are talking about this work in celebrity PR. They just work in PR. And those are very different beasts. They're very different things. So no matter how much they know and how much pop culture they like, if they don't work in celebrity PR, it's not always going to be 100% correct, which I think is really important to go into these things with, is like taking everything you're learning from these people with a pinch of salt, because like I think a lot of people are seeing the positive implications of Taylor Swift being with Travis Kelce, and that like his jersey sales went up 400%, like viewership has gone up, like girls are talking about football now, like all of these things, they're seeing that, and people are like, obviously it's a PR relationship, and it's like PR literally means public relations, like a public relations relationship. Like obviously like throughout history, like there have been PR relationships, like we all are aware of this. We see people start dating like to push a movie, and then like you never really see them again. But just because people meet on the set of a movie doesn't mean that that relationship is fake. That's unhinged. Like if you think back to like The Notebook with Rachel McAdams and Ryan Gosling, they started that press tour, they started that movie, they hated each other. And they would talk about how much they hated each other, and you could feel it. Like they did not like each other. And then that turned into like lust, and then it turned into love, and then they dated seriously for like a couple of years. And like you would never be able to like
enemies to lovers.
Literally. Whoa. And so it's these things where it's like when it fits the narrative for it to be a PR relationship, it is one, and when it doesn't, it's not. So like Zendaya and Tom Holland could very easily be viewed as a PR relationship, but everybody's like, no, we love them. It's not.
They've been dating forever.
But even with like Emma Stone and Andrew Garfield, like once their relationship ended, there was like sectors on the internet that was like, was it PR this whole time? And it's like, did you see the way that man talked about her?
Was Twilight PR the whole time?
I don't know.
Think so. They're both so weird.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think that like it makes sense. But so it's been really interesting like watching all of this happen, because there has been so much talk lately, especially because of all these people on TikTok who are putting themselves across as experts when they are experts to an extent, but might not have the exact qualifications for things. But like we've talked about before, like we had a whole episode about how TikTok is influencing media, and the media is influencing TikTok, and then TikTok is being influenced by that media, etc. Right. And it's like it's a constant cycle of it. And we've seen this in like the Pete Davidson effect, and like all these different things of people joking about like, oh, Pete Davidson has the opportunity to do the funniest thing right now. Like anytime any relationship ends, that's like the joke now of like, oh, Pete Davidson's gonna be seen with Hugh Jackman. Like who's he gonna like who's he gonna be seen with next? Like who needs Pete Davidson? But it's like two things can be true at once, where it's like, I mean, right now he keeps like fucking wrecking his cars, so like I don't know how great of a catch he is right now, but most of the time, realistically speaking, Pete Davidson seems to have a relatively decent head on his shoulder. He's funny, he's like monetarily set, like he loves his mom and like loves dogs. Like it sounds like a great time if like he doesn't want something serious and
have a good time.
Serious. Like it just sounds like a silly, goofy, fun time to like go hang out with Pete Davidson. But also because Pete Davidson is buzzy, there's going to be press. So it's like both things can be true at once in regards to like these dating things. But like also like when you're a public figure, if you go on a public date with somebody, because like anything you do when you're getting back in the dating game is going to be viewed as, oh, they're debuting a relationship.
Right.
When it's like, oh, I'm just like going on a date, or like I'm just hanging out with my friend who like I might fuck later. Like,
right. Yeah.
like we've all been there.
It's never not a conversation, especially when it comes to Taylor Swift. I just feel like with everything, with all of the Maddie stuff, and there was like that Dumois thing that came out when they broke up, and it was just like, Taylor doesn't care. Like, Taylor is 100% doing things for herself. And I kind of feel like that's true. Like, people were also saying that like she's trying to recreate the amount of gossip that was around her between 1989 leading up to Reputation era. Yeah. I don't think that's true. Why would, like, Sara brought up this point earlier, why would she put herself through Reputation era again on purpose? Like, that's so unhinged. I think she's literally just living her life. I think she got out of a 6-year relationship, and she's like literally just trying to have a good time. Like, I don't think it's that deep.
Yeah, because like her relationship with Joe was obviously right at the time. But like we've said before on here, it's very clear that like Joe got used to a version of Taylor that wasn't really who Taylor was. And Taylor was probably cosplaying as that version and being like, I love my boyfriend so much. Maybe this can be my life. And then she saw the world opening up and was like, actually, I want to be money. I want to be a pop star again. I want to make money.
Just kidding.
Sorry. And then he like couldn't deal with it because I'm sure that like promises were made, you know, whatever, of like, oh, like this will be your life. Like we'll live in the countryside of England and be quiet and like whatever, be together
it's
forever.
Giving Sophie Joe.
Yeah, literally, but the other way around. And so it's just like he clearly just like couldn't fuck with his girlfriend being more famous and popular and cool and successful than him. And so I think like when you get out of a relationship like that, you want to just like have some fun. And I think like on paper, Maddie Healy would have been having some fun. She didn't need to do that so publicly, my personal opinion. If you're just going to fuck Maddie Healy, just fuck Maddie Healy. But along with the like, is it PR? Is it fake? Like, blah, blah, like she's trying so hard. We're now seeing this narrative of like, we're seeing too much of Taylor. Taylor is doing too much. Blah, blah. And I'm like, guys, we didn't see her for, you are literally fucking repeating history and you are her fucking fans. And again, as everybody knows, I am Taylor. If Taylor Swift has no haters, I'm dead. Like, but at the same time, I'm like, she deserves to have fun. She deserves to be successful because she's talented. She's good at what she does. Like her career and like her being out in public and having fun with her friends, like leave her fucking alone. Like, let her do
Taylor's number one hater and number one fan.
literally though. But I'm just like, guys, just like let her be. Like stop being so mad about it.
Okay,
and it's just,
I think I think the overexposure thing is really interesting. And I think the point that you were about to make before it ran away was that we literally did not see Taylor for like a very long time and like barely got breadcrumbs of Instagram posts and stuff like that. And now that she's doing her tour, she's very much out in the public again and she's having these relationships. I just think this whole idea of being too in the public or too overexposed is like unhinged. Because like we were trying to talk about this earlier, like most celebrities kind of rotate in cycles of like when they're doing things versus when they're not. They're just more public when they're doing things. But like the Kardashians are people who like have literally just always been in the public and have never not once had a quiet moment. But that's because they came out on reality TV. Like their bread and butter is reality TV. But I think this conversation is like really interesting. And when we think of it, of like the mystery of celebrities and how like mystery keeps us more interested in celebrities, but it's like we still don't know that much about Taylor personally. I feel like it's just like kind of this idea that because we're seeing her, we think we know more about her. And in that regard, it's making the quote unquote overexposure, which I don't think she's necessarily reached yet, is becoming unattractive because of what we think about the mystery of celebrities.
Well, I think also at the end of the day, Taylor's lame. Like she's like, I don't mean it in like a mean way. I just mean like she very much is that girl in high school who wanted so badly to be the cheerleader and she wanted to have attention. And I mean, like fans of Taylor know she was so fucking extra on like MySpace and would leave like the most unhinged comments like on her friends' MySpace pages. And she would do this all the time. And I just think it's so funny to me that like whenever we get like a taste of Taylor, like like Jenna and like we did a VMAs episode on Patreon, and we were kind of like making fun of how like millennial Taylor is in regards to like everything she was doing throughout the VMAs, and that she had like this camera on her, and like that's like her club night. Like she's letting her hair down, she's having fun, she's just being herself. And like anytime Taylor's being herself, I think people a little bit get the ick. And I'm not meaning this in like a mean way, but I just think that because we don't really know Taylor. Taylor is pretty private for somebody that is very public.
Yeah.
You know,
like we very much know her public persona, and we very much
Yeah.
don't know how she is with her friends.
And so anytime we get like an insight into who she is, meaning like her kind of
The VMAs is
extra
very much her
behavior
having a good time with her friends,
Yeah.
getting drunk.
is like her being extra at the VMAs, her being extra at these football games. Like people are complaining on Twitter and TikTok and all this stuff like, oh, she's like cheering too loud. This is why it feels fake. Like she's like being so loud and out there and obnoxious and like trying to get his attention from the seats. I'm like, because Taylor is at the end of the day an internet nerd.
I feel like this is Taylor's like cool girl moment. Like
Yeah.
she's always just dated like musicians, pretty like musicians or actors. But this is literally her like you belong with me moment. Like this is literally like her high school dream.
Yeah, and so that's what I'm saying is it's like Taylor was always kind of like on the outskirts of popularity. Then she became famous, and like when you're famous, your like outskirts of popularity personality doesn't really matter because that kind of makes you relatable in your lyricism and how you write about like relationships and all this stuff because people are like, she's so me coded or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
And now she's having this moment where she's not being me coded to most of these people. She's dating like the most successful tight end in football. He's a huge deal.
So you're admitting
Big man-
Travis Kelce is famous?
He's big man on campus in the world of football. And like to Taylor, it's like, oh my God, I've always wanted this. This is what I wanted in
Right.
high school. Like this is, oh my God, this is crazy. And because she was always dating like the hot boy musician, but like the hot boy musician isn't the same thing. And so now she is in front of people who she would not normally be in front of. So like the football guy's friends who like make fun of him for dating the nerdy girl that he met in his like intro to MacBook class are now like, why are you dating this girl who's taking the computer class that you have to take? And he's like, because she's cool and interesting and pretty. And they're like, but she's on the computer all the time. What are you talking about? And that's like the football fans yelling at Travis Kelce being like, she has only been on 2 dates with you that we're aware of. Why is she being so loud in the crowd and being annoying? And then also Taylor's fans are like, we're seeing too much of her. She's doing too much. And they're like getting mad about it. Like, well, because it's just like Jenna already said of like me getting lost in my train of thought because I'm like, oh shit, am I a Taylor Swift fan this week? Like we said, like honestly, like up until 1989, we were seeing so much of Taylor. And then after 1989, she did like a world tour, was seen everywhere. It was very much like Taylor in her friend era.
Can I just raise a point that like maybe she's not overexposed because she's being seen, but because everyone is talking about her so much?
Yeah, that too.
And they're equating that to be the same thing. Because I'm just like, I'm sure there's like celebrities that we see equally as much in public,
Yeah.
but no one's talking about them to this level and dissecting every little thing she does, and that's why she's overexposed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so there was this article in 2015 in CBS by Andrea Park where it says Taylor Swift, quote, I think people might need a break from me. And so the article goes, even Taylor Swift is getting sick of Taylor Swift. The singer told NME that she plans to take a break after her 1989 tour ends and that she thinks the break will be welcomed. Quote, I think people might need a break from me, is what she told them. Yeah, so basically it was like this concern that she had that like she was be everywhere too much and people were getting sick of her being everywhere too much. And it feels like history is repeating itself. And it's crazy because history is repeating itself from the mouths of her fans where they're like, why are we seeing her so much? Like, why is she getting paparazzi so much? Blah, blah. It's like, because she's in New York. She's seeing her friends because she's been in hiding for most of COVID and then started her, like had to rehearse for her world tour, start her world tour. And now she's here with some time off and she's seeing friends and she's dating. And it's like, she is the most famous woman, like probably after Beyonce. Yeah. And so it's like, obviously she's going to be photographed because Beyonce is not being photographed. So Taylor is. And so now it's everybody's business that Taylor's going out to dinner to like every Italian restaurant with $75 pasta.
Well, it's also like when Harry was like on tour in New York, he was being photographed also.
He's photographed every fucking day in London, and people aren't like, oh, it's overexposed, gross, ew, Harry biking.
And like Harry's on like on vacation
in
Italy on a private yacht, and he's like being photographed. Yeah, I literally think it's because fans talk about it so much.
Yeah,
and they're not used to, and like in recent years, they're not used to seeing Taylor so much. That's literally why.
And it's just like crazy because they're being like, oh,
that narrative feels kind of controlling in a way.
It really does. And it's like, oh, she's
like
not allowed
Taylor
to have
what
fun.
She can and can't do. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like on top of that, the speculation of like, oh, this relationship must be fake because like she's just out there being so loud about it. And like it's clearly upping his like social game with football social game with female fans, and it's like upping interest in Taylor from people's like football boyfriends. But like that's not a positive, because historically speaking, when football guys have dated successful celebrities that are internationally known, like those celebrities get flack. The behavior that is happening in regards to football guys' responses to Taylor, which is not just the like Travis is more famous than Taylor, which is a lie, but it's also the like, I saw a clip today from a Barstool Sports podcast, which like of course it was from a Barstool Sports podcast, but I saw a clip today of some guy being like, I'm not going to believe that they're actually dating until I see a sex tape. Unless I see his penis going inside of her, I'm not going to believe that they're together. And I was like, that's so fucking disgusting.
I don't know what the general public football audience is thinking. However, my mom is a football fan. My mom is also a fan of pop culture. So she's been saying that like in recent years, the NFL has had like a really bad reputation because there's been issues with like drug usage, and there's been like some like divorces or something like that cause drama. So NFL generally is like having a bad rap. Basically, morale is low for the general NFL community. And she was saying like this is like the quote unquote all-American couple that's gonna rally people together and make football exciting, which like Taylor has gone to two games, case in point of this making it exciting. Like it is such a huge conversation. So I haven't seen football fans being mean, so I don't know if football fans are being mean. My like perception of it is that football fans are excited about this until a certain degree, which we're going to get into in a second. But like even on like the Travis Jason Kelsey podcast, they had on like one of their football friends, and they were like saying like, oh yeah, like did you play Taylor Swift like when you got your touchdown or like in the locker room? And he's like, yeah, I was like jamming out Taylor Swift. My thing is like I feel like people have always wanted to be like, damn, Taylor Swift slaps, but they've always been afraid to say it because of them looking like they're a fangirl. And now suddenly Taylor Swift is cool, and they're like not afraid to say it with their whole chest. And I think a lot of football guys are like happy to like be able to appreciate Taylor Swift out loud. I think that's very interesting part of what is all of this is happening.
Well, I mean, most football players are probably himbos because they're getting tackled so much and like brain cells are dying, so they just like all fucking love Taylor. I was talking more so about football fans rather than like the football players who are probably like pop girls.
Yeah, so this is what I'm like, I don't know what the general football consensus is. However, I do think it's interesting of this like quote unquote all-American couple, and my mind goes to Justin and Brittany. And I don't know if there's been a quote unquote all-American couple since then. And also I think quote unquote all-American couple is blonde hair, blue eyed. Like, let's be real.
Because I was going to say all-American
and relatively good boy, good girl Christian. Like that's what the quote unquote term is.
Because in my mind, they're not even the all-American couple because Rihanna's not American. I'm like A$AP Rocky and Rihanna are the Prince and Princess of America.
Oh my God. So also my mom was saying that, however, Republicans who like football absolutely are trashing Taylor Swift right now. Why? Sarah, listen to this. Because she got
did the Pfizer ad, right?
No, because she got however many 100,000 people to sign up to vote after her concert. She told people to go vote, and they signed up to vote. And to Republicans, Taylor Swift is a Democrat. So like apparently like to Republican football commentators, they are absolutely trashing her. Like they hate this. They hate this. But I think to the general GP, most people are entertained and like this. Okay, but That's one side. That's just my mom's opinion. We found this article called Taylor Swift is Too Famous for This in The Atlantic, which actually my mom did also send me. It's written by Devin Gordon on October 1st, literally yesterday. And it brings up a really interesting point that like I don't know how I feel about, which is that Devin writes, "This is going to end badly. Sorry to be a party pooper, but this isn't really about Travis and Taylor at all. It's about a sports media cycle that simply cannot coexist with the gossip manufacturing industry. Two unruly mobs smacking together like a 300-pound lineman. This is more than any budding romance can withstand, particularly one that's still manifesting itself into being." And then goes into talking about how when things start getting rough, when the Chiefs inevitably don't start doing as well, who's going to be to blame? Taylor Swift. Why? Because she's distracting Travis Kelce, and that has historically been the narrative that we've seen.
And so this is like what is very interesting to me is, like I was saying before, like I saw that Barstool clip on Twitter because Twitter auto plays videos and I couldn't avoid it.
Couldn't unsee it.
Couldn't unsee it. And there have been like other people saying similar things to Devin in this article of just like, if Taylor doesn't show up to a game, then it's like, and then they lose, it's like, it's bad luck. Or if Taylor is showing up at games and they're losing, then it's like, oh, she's distracting him from the stands because like they're all thinking about like, is Taylor there? And like right now it's like fun and his friends and his teammates are being like asked about it. And they're like, oh, like they want their privacy. Like, I don't want to talk about this now, but it's like, at what point are they going to get tired of being asked about Travis Kelce's relationship with all-American pop star Taylor Swift? Like, when are they going to get sick of it? Because like these guys are constantly being interviewed. They're having to do press conferences. They're constantly accessible to the press in a way that most celebrities outside of sports are not. And so this is like the press's way into getting access to the life and times and stories of a properly A-list celebrity, because they're like, one of these football players is going to crack because they're going to get tired of constantly being asked about it. And they're just going to be like, you know what, if you're going to keep fucking asking, I'm going to tell you because I want to talk about something else. And they're just going to lose it. So it's like this thing of like, they can be as respectful as they want to be of like Taylor and Travis's privacy, but like the press is going to keep on pressing and they're going to keep doing it.
Also in this article, Devin literally says it's a tale as old as Yoko Ono. And if you think about that, she was blamed for John Lennon going solo, doing what he did, going off what he was supposed to do. She was to blame for it. So it's like even beyond sports, like literally women have always been blamed for everything.
Yeah. And it's always a problem. And then people will hate her and comfort her and all this stuff. And I mean, Taylor is like, I don't think that personally it will affect Taylor, but I do think that it will cause turmoil amongst the Taylor Swift girlfriend, football boyfriend dynamic. And
which is probably a lot of Swifties.
Yeah, it's a lot. And so in similarity to like that thing that Devin said about like it's a tale as old as Yoko Ono and like, oh, Taylor Swift's going to be distracting him and all this stuff. There's been other scenarios in which a very celebrated football player has dated a just as famous, if not more famous, like more widely recognized woman. So Jessica Simpson, who, for those of you who might not know, Jessica Simpson was a pop star. She did movies and she was famously married to Nick Lachey. They had the Newlywed Show, I think on MTV or VH1. Famously was like chicken of the sea, and she thought that there were chicken that swam in the ocean and it's tuna. Very famous like reality TV line. But so they divorced in 2005, and 2 years later she starts dating former Dallas Cowboys quarterback Tony Romo. And I am not a football fan, but I do know that the Dallas Cowboys were like the biggest football team for like years. Like any person you met in any state for some reason was a fan of the Dallas Cowboys. Do I know why? No, but it was a thing. And Tony Romo was like a big deal. And so they were together for like a little bit over a year. And there was so much hatred towards Jessica Simpson from Cowboys fans, literally from the jump. Like from the start, they did not respect their relationship. It was just like a bad time all around. And so for this publication called The List, Precious Gibson in August of this year wrote an article titled A Look Back at Jessica Simpson and Tony Romo's Tumultuous Romance. And so Precious writes, football fans and even sports commentators all weighed in on Simpson and Romo pairing up, and many of them criticized the two being together. Interestingly enough, it was the country pop star who caught a large portion of the backlash for possibly distracting the promising athlete. And so then she goes on to say, for Cowboys fans, Jessica Simpson became the subject of superstition surrounding the career of her ex-football pro boyfriend, Tony Romo. She infamously wore a pink Dallas Cowboys jersey in the stands during a December 2007 game against the Philadelphia Eagles and angered Cowboys fanatics. The sports community accused her of being a distraction to Romo, resulting in the game's 10-6 defeat. She goes on to write about how, like, years later, like, a sports journalist called Skip Bayless like revisited their relationship, and this was like in 2016 on the air, and he was like, yeah, it was Jessica Simpson's fucking fault that Tony Romo's career stuttered, that like he wasn't doing a good job, and
That's
like a woman
insane.
on the show had to be like, you're really being unfair.
Talk about misogyny popping out.
He like doubled down, and Precious writes, reiterating that drama with a couple off the field translated to his performance and took away from his obligations. And he additionally pointed out that after Romo separated from Simpson, the Cowboys secured a playoff victory.
Oh my God.
And clearly, this is all Jessica Simpson's fault and not Tony Romo's fault.
Right. This is misogyny. This is not objectification. This is misogyny.
This is just outright misogyny. And so, like, I can understand people being worried about that happening with Taylor. I think it is interesting because, like, most of Taylor's fans seem to be backing this relationship. They're like, we love this. So I think it is interesting that while most of the fans are like, we love this relationship, at the same time, a lot of people are being like, the other fucking thing that I keep seeing is like, but she's holding Blake Lively's hand. Why are people not speculating that they're on a date?
Oh my God.
Because of course it's always going to happen.
Calm down.
There's lots of narratives going around, and I just think it's really sad to me that people seem to be like, we love this relationship, but also, Taylor, we're seeing too much of you and we're seeing too much of your personality and we don't want it.
It is interesting that, like, Taylor's just never going to be able to, like, she's never going to be able to have a normal life. But that's, like, what you give up when you become a celebrity. Like, you know that you're buying into that. But it's just, like, whatever relationship she has is always going to be speculated. Obviously, that's been proven
multiple times,
over and over. Yeah, especially recently. But I do think it's interesting of, like, man who is kind of already famous. He's a public figure, already like very famous within football, maybe not super famous outside of football, but this like literally will elevate his profile. This relationship will elevate his profile.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like what we're already being seen happening. Maddie Healy
also
did it
elevate his profile.
What?
It did. Like,
but
maybe
also
not in a positive
with
way,
severe
but
backlash.
Yeah. Not in a positive way, but it elevated his profile 100%.
Yeah, and even Joe, even Joe's profile was elevated because nobody would have cared about a British actor before. But like with Travis Kelce, like I just saw like a snippet from like his podcast with his brother, which also like actually my fangirl nonsense is that his brother Jason Kelce talked about Twilight for like 3 minutes straight, even though Travis Kelce was trying to get him to shut up and he just continued to talk about it. That's my fangirl nonsense. But on the podcast, he was being like, yeah, I did this to myself. I know I did this to myself. Like, but he's like a public figure who's like more so equipped to handle what fame is. But it's just like Taylor's so stupidly famous. And it's not just that she's famous, it's the fan base too. Because it's like Beyonce, we're talking about she's stupidly famous, but like she's married. Like she's been married. She's been in a relationship. Taylor's like, I don't know Rihanna's fandom like well enough to know like what the conversation is with them. I'm just trying to think of like other fandoms and stuff, but Taylor's like, but also like Rihanna's not putting out music currently where people are digging through her music for Easter eggs. Like Taylor's like so unique in this position of people digging through her music for Easter eggs, and thus her relationships are part of being a fan. Like it's wild. It's truly wild.
Yeah. I mean, it's a very intricate web that has been woven in regards to this woman's life and the intrigue and interest in it. And I mean, this is going to be playing out for a while, I think. And it's going to be interesting. Funny because it's
like, I feel like this could have gone two ways, and the other ways that literally just fizzled out after last week and like we never heard of it again. And instead it's going the exact opposite way, in which we're probably talking about this for the next 6 weeks.
Well, I think based off of Travis and Jason's podcast and things that have been said and how famous he is, especially where he's from, I think that they met a lot sooner than we're aware of. I think that he told that funny story about the bracelet because he already knew he had it in the bag. I don't think he would have made a joke about wanting to give Taylor a friendship bracelet with his phone number on it if he didn't know that he would be seen with Taylor Swift soon afterwards.
Interesting.
And so my conspiracy theory is that he had his people call her people when she was going to be playing in Missouri, where whatever Midwest state plays football in.
Place.
And they set up a meeting and they met. And I think that he made that bracelet as like a silly, flirty gesture. And like that was real. But I think that he actually was like, I think he actually met her and just like, you know, was like doing his thing of like being a bit of a jokester or whatever. And so I think that
I could see that.
And like, no matter how silly, goofy Taylor is, like that woman was way too comfortable with his mother to have not met her before.
Yeah.
So that's the hill I'm going to die on. I think that this relationship has been going on a little bit longer.
I can definitely see that because also the quote is like, Kelsey revealed that he'd invited Swift to the Chiefs' upcoming home game against the Chicago Bears. Quote, I told her that I've seen her rock a stage in Arrowhead and she might come to see me rock the stage at Arrowhead. But like that literally implies that they were in contact.
Yeah. So I think like there's more to it, and I think he's being as respectful as he can be, and it seems like he's going to be more coy about it going forward. He said as much on the podcast. So I don't know. I mean, it'll be really interesting to see like where the football bros take this, and if Taylor's fans for some reason continue to hate that they're aware that she exists, because it's just so fucking weird to me that people are like complaining that we get to like see her outfits and like see her hanging out with her friends, because I'm like, I love that I get to see Harry Styles on a Lime bicycle every day in London right now.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is so fun. I love it. It's so entertaining.
Yeah.
It's like we're creating the narratives ourselves. We don't know what she's doing at dinner. We don't know what's happening. We just see the photos. She's not like fucking like on The View every morning.
She's not on live stream working out in bed.
Not on live stream doing whimper challenges.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so we could truly talk about both of today's topics for literal hours, but I think we're going to leave it here for today. I'm sure we'll be back with more updates re all of these people in the coming weeks. Next week, who knows what's going to happen.
Thanks for tuning into this absolutely unhinged episode. Unhinged, backed by science.
We hope you enjoyed this conversation. If you guys have any thoughts or feelings about anything we talked about today, we would love to chat on social media. We're at Name3Songs on all platforms. I feel like some of you might have some personal beef with me this week, so if you do, come and hit me up. I'm at Sara_Fagan. I'm happy to discuss. If you want to tell Jenna how lovely and beautiful she is, you can also do that. She is at Jenna_million on all platforms. So thanks for joining us this week on Name3Songs. And until next time, never let anyone make you feel bad about your favorite band.
And remember, you're never too cool to listen to Jung Kook.
Don't forget to subscribe to be notified when each episode comes out, and leave us a 5-star review. They really help.
If you want to find out more about any of the sources we referenced in this episode, you can visit name3songs.com.